Mr. Hickman,
Here.
Vice Chairman Koss, Chairman Ripka.
Here. So I'll make a move to excuse Mr. Koss. Do I hear a second?
Second.
There we go. So we've got such a move by me, second by Mr. Hickman. Any final discussion? I think not. Roll call, please, on there.
Mr. Hickman,
Aye.
Chairman Ripka.
Aye. So Mr. Koss is excused. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please read agenda item number 3 into the record.
Approval of the motion summary for the meeting held October 3rd, 2018 as recorded and transcribed.
Okay, having read the motion summary in advance, does any commission member wish to initiate any further discussion? If not, do I hear a move to accept and approve the motion summary as recorded and transcribed?
So moved.
I make that second. So we have such a move by Mr. Hickman, second by Mr. Ripka. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hickman,
Aye.
Chairman Ripka.
Aye. Motion carries. Please read agenda item number 4 into the record.
Update of the fire lieutenant promotional list.
Okay, so Chief, I understand the fire department has 4 openings for fire lieutenant, 1 to backfill behind a promotion to captain, and 3 other positions to staff the new station 304. So I think the last list we had, I think dates back to January of 2018, and it expired on October 4th. We had 2 individuals left on that list, and from that list we hired Timothy Pyle and Chris Needy. And I remember the swearing in ceremony very well. So
Correct.
that's great. So that's expired, and you're coming with a new list. So I yield the floor to you.
Thank you. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce a couple of my staff. I know you're familiar with Joe Murphy, who's here, Union Vice President, but also here is Jeremy Barr, Captain, and also my administrative assistant, Jen Klemansky. Jen, I wanted to introduce her. Number one, she wanted to get familiar with the civil service process here. But anytime that you'll be calling for me, most likely she will take your call.
I was just going to say that to get to you, I go to you. So I want to be your best
the brains of our operation. But anyways, you're correct. We did end up having a promotional process for the position of fire lieutenant. We currently have 4 positions open. The process that we use has been the longstanding process that we have been using for the past couple years. There's an application process and screening to ensure their qualifications met the minimum requirements for the position. This was followed by a written test that was administered by the Ohio Fire Chiefs Association, and then that was followed by a officer interview panel, which the officers, that being my captains, conducted an interview with each one of those captains. I was present, but not a voting member, nor was I an influencing person, because my interview actually comes after this process. But through that, there's a ranking process. As you see their scores for the written test, you see their scores for the oral interview, and then in addition to that, they receive additional bonus points with that. So at this point, you'll see the rankings that are located in there, and we're recommending that this list be certified. I can tell you from this point forward, after today, we've already established my interviews to begin moving forward, and I hope by the end of next week to make my recommendations to the city manager for the promotion of 4 lieutenants. And I should highlight, because I know at our last meeting we had a little bit of discussion about the fire that we had down off of Terra Glen. Yes. 3 of these positions are for as a result of the opening of Station 304. It doesn't mean these 3 of those lieutenants will be going down there just for the mere reason that we have a contractual obligations with the firefighters, that there is a bid process. So based on that, we'll dictate who actually goes there and who backfills, current or existing positions.
So you did all your planning, you got the funding out of your levy, I guess, or is that a capital thing for the fire station?
The fire station, yes, is a capital. We actually did a bond for that, $3.5 million. So that'll be being paid off over, I believe, a 25-year period, is going off the top of my head of what that is. You got
the positions requested in the budget and approved.
Correct.
So how do you manage the process of who gets to go there?
Based on our union contract,
That's what I'm getting at.
there is a bid process that is based on seniority. So currently out right now, because any lieutenant that's promoted at this point in time as a result of this list would not necessarily be eligible to vote based on the seniority. Or I should say the people that have been there for longer will have a higher seniority ranking on that. There's a bid process, and unless there's an underlying issue as far as qualifications for that position, which there's really not for the lieutenant's position, the current lieutenant's positions that we have. Basically, it's filled based on seniority.
So I remember back in my days working, if we had a vacant window seat, then we had to put somebody there. There was so much discussion and bad feelings. We just gave it to the union, say, you figure out who gets the window seat, right?
And we have a process that we worked through labor management. It was a contractual issue that it ended up going to arbitration with. But since then, I think, and, Joe can correct me if I'm wrong, it's really worked quite well for all of us. And so.
Good. Glad you partnered with them. Okay, so you got 4 and you got a list of 7, so that's good news. Still scheduled to open in January?
That is the plan. It's looking good, isn't it?
They're there every morning. I go by and it's like, darn, I can't get up early enough to see those guys. So, I mean, they're actually putting in some concrete paving around the edges over there.
They are. The drywall
Mhm.
has been installed, so they're starting to work on that aspect. So I have a meeting down there tomorrow, but looking real good.
Okay. Does any commission member have any additional questions for the chief?
I have a question. Did I see that we have a promotion and swearing in ceremony?
We
Yes.
do. We have 3 new candidates that will be starting with us, ironically, on Halloween night. So we'll be doing a swearing in with that. But as you mentioned, on the lieutenant's exam, Lieutenant Pyle was promoted to the position of lieutenant. He has since been promoted to the position of captain.
That's quick.
And one of the things that we've really tried to focus on is, especially with as many promotions and hiring that we've gone to, is try to do 2 swearing-in ceremonies per year. And with that, we've held off on the swearing in of Captain Pyle, so that'll be done as part of this promotional process, the swearing in process.
4 o'clock at Station 301.
Yes.
And you'll recognize some of those names were on the list we certified last month.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so many thanks to the Administrative Services Division for keeping us in the loop on that. We love to go to those things. Okay, does anybody have any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
I think we need a vote on the
List.
list.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go back on here. Okay, do I hear a move to accept and approve the subject fire lieutenant promotional list as presented?
Aye.
And I will second. So we have such a move by Mr. Hickman, second by Mr. Ripka. Any final thoughts? I think not. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hickman,
Aye.
Chairman Rivka, sorry.
And so I don't think we're going to have another meeting until maybe January, right? So if you make selections, we don't need to see their names pulled off of the list. Is that right?
That's correct.
You can go ahead and do what you think. Okay.
And I'd just like to point out, other than really the part-time, we'll be up to full staffing at this point in time, and that's dependent on this year's budget too.
Yeah, that's one good compliment I'll pass on is have the responsibility to keep those vacancies to a minimum and keep the hiring pipeline in there. So it's good for the citizens to make sure that we're as fully staffed as possible. That's great. Okay, there being no further business to conduct, I move to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Aye. Second.
All right, I will go through it. Move by Mr. Ripka, second by Mr. Hickman. Any final thoughts or discussions? Think not. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay.
But I do have one comment. We are bringing Rutherford B. Hayes home. Everybody knows, I'm sure you're all intimately